Welcome to the Josh Button Podcast, where we discuss health, wellness, and outliers from society. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 44. What do we really know without actual experience? What do I mean by that? We live in a funny time where a lot of things that have been commonly accepted, have been falling by the wayside and have been, being proven to be bunk, to be false. Safe and effective. That's one that just in the last couple of years, I think many of us have come around to realize we were fed information that just was not correct. Now, whatever you attribute that to, the fact remains. They were wrong. They said something emphatically, they promoted it as truth, and it was incorrect. But is this new? Or is this the real epidemic? My contention today is this is the real epidemic, and I'm not just basing it on my own personal opinions or a couple things that we've witnessed in the last few years. I'm basing this on things that we already knew. Just for some reason, mainstream media and the loudest and most vocal will not admit it or will not promote it. Look, studies suggest, we hear this all the time. We hear it all the time, whether we're talking about diet or economics or any promoted scientific literature and published reports. We hear it all the time. Causation versus correlation, and this is what we know. Well, we're basing them off of studies that most likely are flawed. I want you to think about this one thing. The history of science is most scientists being wrong about most things most of the time. Think about that. The history of science is most scientists being wrong about most things most of the time. This is just facts. So, I am here to suggest that we learn and we know based upon experience, based upon trial and error, doing things and witnessing the results firsthand. Why don't we just take other people's word for it? Because it will leave us in the predicament of, were they really correct, and were they basing their opinion or the statements they were making on sound research, on sound experiment, on sound first-hand experience and results? Most of the time, the answer to that is no, and I'm going to prove it to you. Look, our body, our living system, is the most advanced piece of technology in this magnificent world we live in. If you're not aware of that, you will not thrive. Look, it is a fact of today's reality. A lot of people believe they are pharma dependent, or that they need to outsource to things that are man-made, that are synthetic, things that, without, they will not be able to live properly, live healthy, live the life that they really want to live. What they really desire, what most of us really desire, is to be happy, healthy, sustain life in a manageable way, and do what we want to do what we enjoy. Spend time with the people that we love spending time with, and experience things, because life is short. And to be quite honest, I think it's a shame that so many people out there depend on modalities that are just absolutely being proven time and time again to be inefficient, to absolutely not being giving them what they really truly desire. If we are to leave health in the hands of others, and if we are just to take other people's word for it, we are going to fail over and over and over again. Whether we're talking about diet, look, the food pyramid, how it's changed in our lifetime. Look at what was being promoted even recently as the most healthy things to eat, what you should be eating. Fortified cereals, for Christ's sake. They served us this up on a platter as the healthiest option for children most of our lifetimes. These are absolutely positively the worst things you can start your day with, the worst things that you can be feeding your kids. There's plenty of studies now, which I'm not going to lean on studies, while I'm here to tell you most studies are inefficient or improper or wrong all the way through and through anyways. But now we do know what they were presenting as the option, the prime option, the best option, was absolutely nonsense. It was the opposite of what they were feeding us. So, what else is there? And why else should I experience things for myself and make up my own mind based upon the results that I am witnessing in myself? I'm going to tell you, there are many reasons. There are many reasons. But don't take my word for it. Just don't take my word for it. I want you to live your life based upon the experience that you have. And it's very hard to tell some people that, like, look, your doctor, yes, he has a degree. Yes, he has years of studying and memorization, and he's parroting information that he was given. But has he really experienced the utmost success for what you're looking for? Has your doctor ever actually had somebody come into his office with an affliction and then come back 6 months later saying, yes, it's been remedied and I'm living my best life and I'm going forward without the need of any outsourcing or dependence upon any, well, chemicals and poisons and toxins and profiteers marketed, well, crap. Let's be honest. Most of this stuff is just garbage. We're treating symptoms all the time that are most likely just natural indications our body is going through a detoxification process and eliminating things that it needs to eliminate. Fevers. You take a medicine to squash a fever when in reality your body needs to have that fever and that furnace, so to speak, to keep on cooking off what it wants to get rid of. If you squash the symptom, you're most likely squashing your body's ability to alleviate the stress that it's causing. And it's creating a sicker environment. It's one of my pet peeves is when I'm feeling a little unwell and somebody recommends me to do something I know I have experienced firsthand is not the route to go. It's just not. I cannot rush out to take antibiotics all the time because I know what that's going to do to my gut health. And I know how that's going to lower my immunity. And I know that, yes, it's going to kill biotics throughout my system and it might cure up the symptoms that I'm having at that moment, but I'm probably going to face and experience worse conditions going forward. It's going to weaken me. It's not going to strengthen me. If I allow my body to go ahead through the natural processes and really heal itself, I'm going to be much better off. I've learned this over and over and over and over and over again in my lifetime. Let's go to what actual individuals who study the studies have to say about that. Professor of medicine at Stanford University who specializes in the study of scientific studies. Think about this one. This guy has devoted his career to studying the studies. All right, I think he's gonna have some point of view and some things to suggest or say or state about these that we're not just when we read a random study here and there, and it's not what we're focusing on all the time. He said the majority of papers that get published, even in serious journals, are pretty sloppy. In 2005, he published Why Most Published Research Findings Are False. It's been widely cited, reviewed, and commonly accepted by those who understand what he's saying and what he's suggesting. He's not alone. If you go on PubMed, that study, Why Most Published Research Findings Are False, is readily available. Go read it. Check it out for yourself. Understand why, when you have these two theories that you're presenting information up against and taking statistics and doing your best to prove one or the other, and you're most likely funded to do so, or you're going to achieve something that will result in funding, biases set aside, there's a plethora of issues that we're finding people are running into when they're attempting to do this. And, well, they're a little bit lazy on certain things. And look, I'm going to be the first to say, studies are really difficult to do in the first place. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine about study results and what they're trying to suggest that directly conflicts what my life experience is. And doing my best not to be triggered by it personally. I just try and rationalize the situation and speak it out with them and go back and forth presenting points of view. But it's very hard to share an experiential point of view with somebody who depends on or responds best to studies that have been done, because they're publishing these studies, these peer-reviewed literature pieces, and then people are accepting them as fact. And that's just the norm. When you are going to school, when you are working in markets and in individual industries that kind of rely on these things for their entire model, that's what you're taught to do. Consult the literature, consult the studies. Ending Medical Reversal is a book by Vinayak Prasad and Adam Sifu. They offer absolutely terrifying examples of practices that were adopted on the basis of studies that were later invalidated. The book, I have not read it yet, but as soon as I found it doing this research in the last few days, I ordered it, and I'm going to read it. And I am going to come back on here and give you the terrifying examples that they speak of, just some of them, because, well, it might save one of you making a decision, an irrational decision based upon rational studies that were done that people are presenting as facts for you now. Like opening brain arteries with stents to reduce the risk of new strokes. 10 years after this practice was commonly accepted and promoted in the medical field, it was proven to increase those risks. Think about that. You have a stroke, you go into the hospital. All the doctors in the country, and in the world for that matter, are dependent upon studies that were done that suggest putting a stent in this brain artery is going to alleviate risk for you having another stroke. And you go and you make that decision based upon all of the studies, all of the results that these people had and that they were promoting as factual, and then it leaves you at a greater risk for future strokes. One thing that I have been absolutely emphatic about lately is something that's shared via the alternative medicine fields online and in public discourse. If you're listening to them, if you have the time and the awareness to actually listen to people that are not accepted in mainstream, you'll come across people that are suggesting statin drugs are the worst of practices that are being promoted and heavily pushed throughout the establishment at the moment. Any man goes into the doctor's office, has blood work come back with high cholesterol, and they're throwing this medicine down their throats as if they are going to have heart attacks if they do not take them. I've had so many people in my life very close to me. My dad is on statins, and I have so many experiences with persons that are close to us that have been told by their doctor their cholesterol's high and they really need to start thinking about these statin drugs. Absolutely awful. Your body creates cholesterol, but cholesterol numbers, the way that they're viewing them, is absolutely backwards. And that is coming down the pipeline. You will learn about people that are, well, you're probably going to see a commercial on TV for it. Let's be honest. You're probably going to see a commercial saying, if you were subscribed statin drugs in the 2000 to 2020s, you are probably due some recourse, your financial settlements, or some, you can sue, because this was absolute heresy. All right, it's heresy. It's absolute. It's blasphemous. Your body isn't creating something that is bad for you. First of all. And high cholesterol, look, I eat so many eggs per day that I guarantee you, if I go into the doctor and have my cholesterol run, they're going to start worrying about me and start thinking and promoting the idea that I need to be on statin drugs. I will not. I know what I feel like when I'm eating eggs. I know what I feel like when I'm not. I know, based upon experience, what the vegan plant-based diet did to me and how I felt and the things that I started to notice about my health based upon experience. However, there's still experts out there that will consult the literature that will tell you emphatically, you need to avoid meat, you need to avoid dairy, you need to avoid eggs, and you need to eat a plant-based, whole grain-rich diet, which is complete insanity. We did not evolve or adapt to the species we are by avoiding meat. We did so by eating meat. by being somewhat carnivorous, by taking the plethora of animals that were at our disposal and utilizing it for the absolute most pristine nutrition available. And it still is. Nothing has changed. Yes, there are factory farming issues. There are greedy people who have done things that I do not agree with. However, they're doing the same thing for soy. They're doing the same thing for monocrops. They're doing the same thing for your fake meats and what they're stocking grocery store shelves with and promoting as the ideal diet. There is absolutely no reason to avoid meat, eggs, dairy. Maybe you want to avoid some of the farmed goods that are farmed, well, less than pure, and the animals that are pumped with antibiotics and the animals that are kept in cages and confined to small spaces and that are basically standing in their poop all day. This is disgusting. Factory farming has many things that are absolutely backwards, just as backwards as these studies would have suggested. But through experience, I understood what it was doing to me, and it was worse than when I was drinking alcohol and partaking in drugs. To be quite honest, I partied like a savage for a long, long time. And what did I do? I ate one meal a day generally, and I drank booze, and I, smoked cigarettes, and I did all kinds of different things. But for some reason, I felt better when I was doing that stuff than I did when I was vegan, plant-based, and eliminating every poison that I was consuming. I wasn't getting the nutrition I needed. I dropped so much weight. I was underweight. My nails were breaking. My hair was falling out. Like, there was just so many different, my skin was awful. There were so many different ailments that I never actually faced previously when I was only eating that one meal a day, as long as it was steak and, baked potato and the things that I was normally eating. Animal products. It's absolutely mind-boggling that so many people will push these things upon others because of what they've read, what they've been exposed to. Most of the time, let's be honest, most of the time it's some documentary off of Netflix. It's not peer-reviewed literature that people actually break down, digest, and go, oh, you know what? This is the best thing to promote around the world. I need to tell all of the friends and family and associates and network that I have out of the love of my heart, finding this information to save them, to make them function better. It's just not what most people do. They see something that they're empathetic, and they offer an emotional response that is probably based upon a slighted point of view or a judgment of some sort of some practice, and then they share the way that they were made to feel as if it's a religious thing. And it is a religious thing. Look, when people are pushing this veganism in specific, it's an emotional response. It's not rational. And you'll see the stories so many times when vegans taste meat for the first time in years. And myself, I absolutely remember it like yesterday. The first bite of a burger I had after a year plant-based, I wanted to cry. I literally wanted to cry. The emotional response to my body, like taking in this nutrition, it was absolutely what I needed more than anything else. It was undeniable. Experiential learning. I'm not telling you to go do plant-based so that you can have the same failures in your health and have the same weaknesses that I had. But I am telling you that based off of my experience, I will never trust the establishment that has promoted these food dilemmas, these food, false statements again. I just won't. Another great book I will get to, and I've read an article on this, which even some of it was hard to digest for me. I'm going to have to reread it. Based upon the book, The Cult of Statistical Significance by Stephen Ziliak and Deirdre McCloskey. They found that between 8 and 9 out of 10 journals and articles of science that they have serious flaws in their use of statistics. This is economics, medicine, psychology. This is not just one area. This is all of them. All of these disciplines and these areas of research are flawed. They have significant issues and significant errors, and we cannot depend upon them. We absolutely, positively cannot depend upon them. You might have goals that you are trying to reach, and you will base the methods of getting there upon studies and research and things that are promoted as the best way to do it, and be misled. Extremely, extremely misled. Look, I know a lot of people are on the steroid and performance-enhancing drug tip right now. But in our lifetimes, in my lifetime specifically, we've witnessed the evolution of these drugs and the evolution of how people are, well, how they're told to take them, what they are taking, the actual substances themselves. And the consequences of having that information wrong was absolutely, it was horrific. Lyle Alzado, Ronnie Coleman, Junior Seau, the individuals in the NFL with CTE and other depression and other issues that arose from most likely systemic abuse of performance-enhancing drugs. And I'm not saying specifically that Junior Seau did, but he committed suicide, and there's a lot of people that wonder. We do know Lyle Alzado and Ronnie Coleman had absolute meltdowns of health, and plenty of other bodybuilders that had things go wrong, so wrong, that were devastating to their health and wellness, that were devastating to their ability to thrive, because they needed to get an edge at some point, and some expert, based upon studies or based upon what they were suggesting to do, led them astray seriously. And now look, there's people taking peptides and people taking all kinds of different steroids and people taking testosterone replacement therapy. And look, I wish the best for everybody. I hope whatever choices you make work out for you. But if you're basing these things upon studies and basing these things upon data available, most likely you have to be open to the fact that they are wrong, and that there are plenty of things that they're not accounting for, they do not see yet, and that will change in the next 5, 10 years, 20 years. The whole superhuman movement, it's, moving towards a robotic state or towards a absolute physical specimen state, has had many failures within it. Just like the literature based upon what we should eat has had failures in it. Just like the science of economics has had failures in it. There are economic advisors out there giving people advice based upon what their data and what is made available to them is showing and is suggesting that they do. And guess what? They're wrong. They're giving bad advice. They're ruining people's retirements. This isn't new. This is a repeat of history. This has happened over and over and over and over again. And you might want to pull out some statistical line or analysis now and say, but the vast majority are on this trend, which might hold up. It might not. Especially right now when we're seeing the dollar in trouble and other currencies in trouble and the rise of new currencies like Bitcoin. There are Peter Schiff and plenty of other financial advisors out there that have told you time and time again, do not touch Bitcoin. And if you had not listened to them and you had invested pennies on the dollar 10 years ago, you would be rich right now, wealthy. I was telling my parents about a guy who bought pizzas with Bitcoin back in, I believe it was 2014, who, if he had it now, it'd be $500 million worth of Bitcoin. Look at what Bitcoin's done against everything in the last few years. The financial advisors that told you to stay away from it, that it was based on nothing, that it was a blip on the radar and that it would disappear, they were all wrong. They were all wrong. If you had hedged your bets against the experts in just that regard, you would be sitting in a much better place right now, and you wouldn't be listening to me, that's for sure. You'd be on a yacht. These are universal as far as the literature is concerned. Experience things. Do them for yourself. Or be ready to abstain completely from things that everybody else is doing because of what is being suggested or parroted. In my experience, it is far better to abstain, to do what you know is right for yourself, and wait it out. Be patient. And in some regards, live a life based in faith over fear, because your doctors and all these other people will scare you into doing something that most likely isn't the right call. It isn't the right method. It is not the right way. If we can avoid outsourcing, in my opinion, it's always going to be best to avoid outsourcing. These are just a few of the examples that I can give you right now off the top of my head in a couple hours of research. It proves we don't really know what we think we know. So observe it, experience it, do it yourself, or maybe just sit and wait it out. Be patient. This was episode 44. If you are on YouTube, please like and subscribe. I am growing that channel, and it is a goal to really get after it this year on YouTube. If you're listening on one of your other Apple or Spotify, please subscribe there or give me some feedback, maybe some comments. Tell me what else you'd like to hear about on this subject specific, or anything to do with health and wellness and outliers from society. I'm Josh Button. Once again, thanks for joining me. Have a great day.